Look, I'm not going to regurgitate everything you already know about the second assassination attempt against President Trump. I've been saying now for years, when he was a candidate in 2016, when he was president, when he ran for re-election, since he's run for re-election, the nature of the propaganda, the extent of the propaganda is so off the charts against this man, like nothing this nation has ever seen, ever, that somebody's going to try and kill him. Now, I don't waste Mr. Producer's time telling him to pull together all the times that I mentioned it, because there are multiple. And now we have two. And now we have the media blaming Donald Trump for assassination efforts against him. We actually have an article, what is it, New York Magazine or something like that, Mr. Producer? The New Yorker? Which some guy writes, no, we can keep calling him what he is. I mean, after all, he is the enemy of democracy. He believes in autocracy. I want the good people, the honest people, the citizens of this country, regardless of party and anything else, to hear me out here. The ruling class, including the media, including academia, including certain oligarchs, they want this man out of the way, period. No, I don't say that they're actively conspiring to knock him off. That'd be ridiculous. That's not my point. My point is they wouldn't be upset. Did you hear what I just said? Not all of them. Some of them don't even bother anymore. But most of them say something like, we're very lucky this didn't happen, and so forth and so on, but Trump. But fill in the blank. But this. I don't get the sense that they're serious when they say that we dodged, as a nation, the proverbial bullet. In other words, I believe there'd be a lot of celebration among the Marxist Islamist left. I really do. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not. In the media in this country, look, I wrote an entire damn book on it. If you really want to understand what's going on right now in the country, you read my last 3 books, Unfreedom of the Press from 2019, American Marxism from 2021, and The Democrat Party Hates America from 2023. Now, there might be people listening saying, oh, there he is with his books. You know what? Why wouldn't I cite things that I've already talked about and put together and researched? What is so wrong about citing what I've done? I don't cite it to pat myself on the head. Ladies and gentlemen, I have more awards, more number one this. It's irrelevant. I have laid it out, chapter and verse, literally. We don't have a free press. There is a Marxist Islamist revolution that's been taking place in the country, and they have found a home in the Democrat Party, which is constantly attacking and ripping at the fiber of this nation. So I fear, but I believe there's a lot of crocodile tears out there. Well, we missed that one. But, Trump brought up Haiti. What? Trump called Kamala Harris stupid. What? When you call somebody Hitler for 10 years, unrelentingly, when you call him a what do they call it? A dictator, unrelentingly, for 10 years, when you do that and you're the president of the United States and the vice president of the United States and a former president, in the case of Obama, they're apparatchiks. When they set up organizations to fundraise off of the same, it resonates. Not with smart people, and by that I don't mean book smart people that use their noggin. Not with serious people. But we're a big country, 330 million people. If that stuff resonates with 1/10 of 1/100th% of the population, that's a lot. That's a lot. This whole notion of the 1619 Project, this whole notion of critical race theory, of DEI, of ESG, this endless repetition of this white dominant society, of this illegitimate society, of this unequal, now inequitable society, of this unjust society, day in and day out from the media, day in and day out from the Democrats, day in and day out from their candidates. It has an impact. It has an impact. And that's the truth. The stuff that's being taught in our colleges and universities, it's absolute filth. Marxism, fascism, anti-Semitism, Islamism. All of which push violence. Now, the Democrat Party is not that upset about violence. They're upset about violence they don't like. What are you talking about, Mark? The southern border is violent every minute of every day. Our inner cities, some aspects of it, are no-go zones by anybody. I don't care if you're black, white, Asian, doesn't matter. They're no-go zones. You can't go there. They're too damn dangerous. And so what's the answer? To attack the cops. To attack the cops. There's a lot of violence in this country. And it's being spread by a lot of ideologues. Now, the funny thing is, we constitutional conservatives, we're not ideologues. I've explained this at some length in the past. What do we mean by this? May I say, I wrote about it in Liberty and Tyranny. We're not ideologues. Yes, we have a philosophy. We have principles. That's a good thing. But we're not ideologues. That is, we will adjust our thinking depending on the events that occur. We will adjust our thinking in terms of our politics and so forth, depending on what's taking place. Not flip-flop. We will apply our principles to new sets of facts. It's that simple. But if you're an ideologue and you push an agenda and it doesn't work, you blame the people. You keep pushing the agenda. That's an ideologue. That's a zombie. We're not ideologues and we're not zombies. We see what's going on the street under this administration, the violence against Jews, the black-on-black violence like we've never seen before in Chicago and other cities. This should be unacceptable. So what do? They slash the budgets of the cops. It's the cops' fault. Excuse me. But this targeting and dehumanization, this is a part of the Marxist Islamist strategy. You don't believe me? Clarence Thomas, the New York Times, the Washington Post, their media, the Democrats in Congress, Joe Biden. It's endless, the war on Clarence Thomas. They've turned him into a non-human. They did the same thing to Robert Bork. They did the same thing to Brett Kavanaugh, which Kamala Harris led that effort. They're doing the same thing to Sam Alito and his wife. In fact, they're doing it to the Supreme Court. The dehumanization of the justices. Look, I have strong disagreements, and I voiced them in a strong way. These people are relentless in the kind of words they use, and they're part of the ruling class. They're part of the establishment. They're not just outsiders. These media organizations, they're not just media organizations. They're part of the ruling class. Look at the way they talk about Netanyahu. They turned Netanyahu into a monster. God forbid, if somebody put a bullet into him, there'd be cheering here in the United States too, just like they cheer overseas. When we were hit on 9/11, these mentalities, Marxist Islamist mentalities, have taken hold of the Democrat Party. They're spread by the media. Every now and then, I'm asked, take a look at Mediaite. I can't stand that site. Okay, so I look. Day in and day out, it's a hate machine against Trump. It's a hate machine against his closest advisors. Day in and day out. They twist. They take words out of context. But most people don't know about them. I've probably made them famous, or at least infamous. But we now have media immediately after this second assassination attempt. Immediately. It's Trump's fault. Lester Holt. What Trump said about Haiti, what Trump said about Silver Spring and the eating of animals, what the hell does that have to do with anything? That is no relationship. This wasn't, as I said when I was asked about this last night. This potential killer wasn't a Haitian. He didn't have Haiti on his mind. But the way they take Trump's words and they twist them, he's a racist. Why? Charlottesville, Joe Biden tells us. It was because of Trump's comments in Charlottesville he decided to run. The neo-Nazis, the Klansmen. So he's a neo-Nazi, he's a Klansman, he's Hitler, this man who's done more for the Jews in the United States, who's done more for the Israelis than any president in American history? Facts don't matter. Reality doesn't matter. And they're not going to stop. Because we've seen something new in the last 24 hours. They're actually blaming the victim. They're actually blaming Trump. They're not going to back off. They have dehumanized him in the minds of millions. They've dehumanized Netanyahu in the minds of millions. They've dehumanized Clarence Thomas and Kavanaugh and Alito in the minds of millions. Hell, they've dehumanized the founders of this country. They've dismissed the founding of this country. Our morals, our ethics, our values are being destroyed, as they must be, as I explained in American Marxism. Everything's got to go. The status quo has to go. The more prominent, the more successful, the more threatening, they need to go first of all. You're trying to put a man in prison who's running for president. The communications director, whatever the hell they called him, who works under Bragg, said this case is phony from day one, like we all knew, but it didn't matter. And so Kamala Harris and the rest keep calling him a convicted felon. Convicted felon? This is like the Dreyfus case, for God's sakes. We have a special counsel who operates like an old Soviet prosecutor. He's told no time and again by the Supreme Court, no by a federal judge in Florida. They tell him no, 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 and he says yes, yes, yes. And the things that they put in their filings that are completely unnecessary are intended to influence the public, not just the jury pool. It's election time. So whether it's these prosecutors, whether it's many of these judges who do and say the things they say and do from the bench, I'm supposed to sit here and pretend what I know is not true? That so many people on cable TV, so many people at the New York Times and the Washington Post, so many people are really concerned about Donald Trump's welfare? Baloney. They could care less. And the proof is in the pudding. They're not going to stop. They take no responsibility. And in fact, they blame the victim. It's sickening.